Okay, so business intelligence, well, there is still some more to look at, all available here within the grid application. We've just had a look through the search, the advanced search, the dynamic search, as well as the quick search. We've added that to our grid application here, and of course, we still have our refined search, which is also a search functionality. So if I come here to the settings, and let me first of all run the grid application just to remind you of where we were just at, and that was right here with a grid view displaying our data, our values, with a search form above that. You know, nothing special really. I say nothing special, but of course it provides us a ton of features already. So it is in fact super special. So right here within the refined search, we can make various adjustments to how the refined search functions and how it is displayed. Now I will come back to that in a few moments, because ideally we add some fields first. So if I come here to select fields, I have then all of the fields that are available within this grid application, and from here then I can choose those that I want to have. So here maybe I would choose continent, country, order date, and say category. And let me go ahead and add total price in there also. And let me go save. I can click on that, but before I do so, let's just check out the other options here. So we have here a range option, and we have that here available on the total price. So I will check that, and it will give me a 5 for incrementation, as well as a show value box. I will leave those enabled, and also start opened. I will say yes. Now to the right here we have the sorting options for that, as well as then the language variable for when the field is empty. Now for the other fields, depending on the type of data that it is, depending on the options that will be available to you. For instance, here for continent, we have multi-select available. Maybe we don't want it, so we can just deselect that, and you will just be able to select one option within that. Again, we can say opened, yes or no. I will choose no for the rest of these values here, and we can deal with those in a few moments. We also then have the option to see more, to reduce the amount of items that are available within that list, and there we can define that here within the quantity option here, and there we can say we only display 10 continents at a time, for instance, or 10 countries. I'll go ahead and click save, come back here to edit fields, and click here on the pen next to total price. And just like many of the other fields available within the grid, it takes me to all of the configuration options for that field. And you may notice it takes me here to the field value. And here I can adjust all of the options for this. So we have here the total price. If it is a currency format, which it is, we have complete with zeros, a decimal position there also. So I will leave that as they are. We can apply a lookup method if we wanted to maybe the continent or country or something else. And then we can just go ahead and save that. Now if I go ahead and run, that will then show me within the grid application here also now the refined search. And as you can see, all of these options there where we chose no, they are compressed or closed, and then otherwise here the total price is open. And of course I can adjust that, and it will update the grid here straight away for our total price. For the category, I can choose here what I want as well, and again it will update within the grid application. And of course with all of those sums, values and comparisons and everything else that we have just gone through is also included. Now it is important to note that within each of these search functionalities you typically have then this extra toolbar applied. So for instance here we have the total price that we have just applied, as well as then the category electronics. So I can just remove those by clicking on the X there or clicking the reset option, and that will reset that back. Now while I'm on that topic, if I use here again the comparison, and if I come back here to proceeding and so forth and go search, And just like that, we have made a load of changes here to our application. We can continue making further adjustments to this if we wanted to, as well as maybe, making other changes to here the refined search. And to do that, again, we come here to the settings, and here, as I was saying previously, we can make adjustments here to how it starts, whether it's opened or closed, how the search functions, the width and the height of it, if the items collapse and so forth. And of course, just by checking any of those items, you can just run the grid application again, and then you can see what the difference is with that option selected or not. Okay, so with that, of course, we have then checked out the refined search, and of course there are still more options, because with the refined search, it opens up more functionality and features within the application for you. But before we continue on, we still have more refined search, because the refined search actually has a lot of features in here, because you may not notice it, but they are here available for us to use. And of course, making those adjustments is always just a click away. So let's go ahead and run it again and see what we have going here. So we have here our category, and we have those options available to us here. And of course, we may want to make changes to those or have them displayed differently. And we can do that all here within the options that we have available to us. So we have here the show quantity, and if I remove that, you may notice then that the quantity here next to those options will then be gone. So that is then no longer displayed. Otherwise, you have then displayed how many of those items you have, and in some cases, maybe it makes sense. And if I remove here the move search above, then we're going to see what happens there. Look, okay, so back within our application, we have then search fields, which we have applied to that. We can have them move to the top if we wanted to. Otherwise, they are where they are. Now, with these fields that we have, of course, we can make further adjustments to these. So, for instance, here for our country, we have here all of the default values that we have applied there. But then always remember here within the edit fields, we have more options here. So we have the see more, the quantity, the multi-select. So I can deselect all of those, have them displayed as open as well. And again, that will then just make a big difference to the application. So if I go ahead and run that again, we'll see then straight away that then the refined search now has everything open, and of course everything displayed there in one long list. And of course you can go ahead and make your selections again. And of course, if I come back here to refined settings, because we had more options here, we had use search modal. So this enables the option to open the refined search field to also open a modal window, facilitating in further options, which is nice. And if we come here to our options, if I click here on country and then come here to the see all and scroll down, we have this then displayed in a nice modal window with all of those options. And of course, from here, then I can choose as many as I want to have displayed, as well as all of them if I want to, or none of them. And of course, I can also reset it and so forth. And removing that, well, maybe we don't want the modal window there no more. And of course, with a simple click there, we then no longer have the see more available to us. And of course, that is then not available. So no more modal windows. So just enable that and you will have that then available so that you can have more options. We have here the tags and multi-select as checkbox. I can remove the multi-select as checkbox, and that will then remove the checkbox from the multi-select. There we see now we only have singular selection. So maybe that is something that you would want to have in your refined search. And of course, you can even start with all boxes checked. So if I check that one, then all of the box within the refined search, as you see, are all checked by default. So that again opens up more options within the refined search. And we are still with business intelligence with the grid application. And if you didn't know it, Scriptcase is jam-packed with features available for you to display and organize the data as you need it. Now, if I go ahead and run the grid application now, we'll see the previous layout that we had. We had the search in here, as well as the refined search and the grid and everything else. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and make a complete change now, because I don't really want to start with a search. I want to start with the summary. And if I go ahead and run that again, we'll see then we start the grid application with our summary. And of course, I was saying previously about having a search in here. And well, maybe that's something we want to have with the summary. So let's do that. And at the same time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a whole new group by. And for that, I'll create a new static group by. And within that, we will create a whole new group by here with then our product, total price, and order date. And for the order date, I will choose year and quarter. And then for our record totals, I'll place in here the total price into the summary totals. And I will go ahead and save that. And of course, I can run the grid application again, and I can apply then the group by that is then now available to us. And that is then here the product, order, date, total, price. If I go OK, then that group by will be applied to the grid. Okay, so we will want to make some further adjustments to that because we want to change here the layout. So if I come here to the product order date, we have here the fields. I have the total price, for instance, and I can make adjustments to those there, as well as then here within the settings. And we have here the x-axis available here, and I can change that. We have the y-axis displayed here, and if I click on that, I can actually change that to the x-axis. Now, if I go ahead and run the grid application again, we'll see that change there. Look, now we have that like so. And of course, we can do that then also here for the product, place that on the x-axis also, and just have it then displayed like so. Okay, so then I will come in here and add a new group by, and for that I will choose then the product and drag that into the product by fields, as well as then the order date. And I will place the grid totals and summary totals as the total price. Now, if I go ahead and save that, I then have that then available. Now, what you may notice is that there is the y-axis here, and if I click on that, it will then of course adjust. So right now we have the data displayed as we have it, this defined category product. So we have here then our group by, and we need to change that then to our new group by product order date, and I choose OK. Then we have that displayed like so. And of course we may want to adjust that. So let's come back in here, and for the order date, let's choose or click there on the y-axis and change that to the x-axis. And I will also come here to settings and change the product order date to the initial group by. So that will then open the grid for me like so, with the years, with or then the values for each of those products, which is then quite a nice view. And of course we can enable some of the other features there that we had previously, using here the dynamic totalization, as well as start with aggregated open, which then open the selection summarization field and allow us then to group those. Okay, so with that then enabled, I can then click here on any of the years and drill down within the grid application, or click then here on the chart and view the chart. Now what I'm going to do then is come back here into our grid application, and what I want to do then is actually display the chart on the same application. So here I will come to summary, as well as then charts and settings, and here I can make various adjustments to the chart. So as I mentioned previously, here we can add the chart above the summary, so I will enable that, and that will then place the chart above my summary data here. So just like that, then we have a nice different view of our information. And of course we can adjust here the size of our chart, as well as increase the height or adjust the height, change the value assorting, so ascending or descending, and so forth. Now there is also the possibility to create a link on the chart, and we can link that to the grid or link it to a child chart, depending on how you want that configuring. And then of course with that, you click then on the element and it will then drill down for you depending on the data. And of course we can change here the type of chart that we want to have displayed. So right now I have a bar chart as a vertical chart. Maybe I prefer to have that as a horizontal chart, or some of these other dimensions, 2D, 3D. We can add stacking on there as well, and so forth. Now if I come then here to the column charts, we can make adjustments to how the data is then presented, adding titles, as well as then adjusting the X and Y titles and removing the values entirely from the chart. For the line charts totals, we're not using a line chart, so that only applies to line charts. And then for the layout, we can then make an adjustment here. Maybe we want to have a different theme applied here to the chart, as well as maybe a different style to that. So we can save that then, and of course go ahead and run the application, and the grid and chart data will be adjusted. Of course, I need to change that to 3D column single series if that is what I want to use. And to do that, I'll come back here to the settings, and here I can then adjust the chart how I want it. So again, I have here the possibility also even to export the chart if I wanted to, and so forth. So now if we go ahead then and run the grid application, or right now the summary and chart as we have it, we may want to still add some search in here. So if I come back here to the summary option, we have further options here for each of these fields. So let me quickly here adjust maybe the total price and display here the percentage, and that I will this time display on the right hand side, and save that. And let's go ahead and run that one more time, and we'll see then that we now have the percentages also displayed for us. Okay, and then back here within our summary, we can access the search as well as then the settings here and fields. Now here we can add then the search fields that we want to have applied. So continent, country, category maybe, and so forth, whatever we want to have here, quantity, and I'll add total price as well. Okay, and then we have our group by, and within our group by we can adjust here the fields that we want to have displayed within the group by. Now I will go ahead and run the application now, and we can see how that is now, because we have now this search available for us built into the summary, which is then really nice. And of course we have the comparison functionality here if we want to enable that for those fields. We just need to come here to the fields and then click here on the little edit button, and then in here we have various other search aspects that we can apply. So here we have a value range, or the slider that I can adjust. I could change the functionality of that, so if it's a count or average that we want, adjust the label also. So in this case, let's say a value range. I can add a lookup method there also, and I can OK that. For quantity, we can do the same thing again. Again, we have here a value range or a slider. We can adjust the increment and a lookup value that we can apply there. With those then applied, we can check out the category. Now for the category, we have a select box or even a multi-select box if we want to have multi-select for the country, which may make sense in this case. We can enable default values here if we want to maybe have, as it says, north or east. And this is for the categories, so we'll have to check what categories we'd have available there, and we can enable that. So if I come here to continent, and then continent, I'll choose multi-select box, and then here I can add Asia in here and then apply that. and then go ahead and run the grid application, and then the Asian continent will be applied there by default. And of course I can then apply the countries that I want to have in that list then also. And then right now we have then the relevant data displayed to us. And of course, just as previous, we have then here the total price that we can assign between a certain value, and then with that we can then make and see our adjusted data. Okay, so within Scriptcase there are a ton of features, and a lot of these features are available to you just with the click of a mouse, and it's just very simple to make a very different change just by making that adjustment and then running the application, see if it has been applied as you like it, and if you don't like it then maybe you will want to remove it or adjust it further, because of course you have all of these options and layout functionalities and features available to you also. And of course, don't forget, even here with the summary and the advanced search and all of these other features you have available, these are all in one application, the grid application. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this BI Business Intelligence series of videos for Scriptcase.